Welcome back. Now, the Namibian government came under fierce criticism in recent weeks after the letter from the office of the Prime Minister showed that government is seeking for a voluntary donation from mainly public servants. Those willing to participate in this scheme are being asked to shed a once-off 2% of their net salary to Treasury in order to help government fend off the advances of drought. Although some say this is a global practice, the question remains whether this is a solution for Namibia's economic struggles. To discuss this issue, I'm now joined by a consumer lobbyist, that is Rob Parker. Rob Parker, welcome to GMN.
Good morning, thank you.
Very well. What's your general take on the government, the request of the once-off 2% of contribution from mainly civil servants?
I have mixed feelings about it. I don't think necessarily that it's wrong to ask for a contribution, but I think I have some questions and some issues with the actual way it's been done.
Yeah.
So for me, it seems a little bit incongruous to ask a worker to donate part of his salary. When we're not asking maybe companies to make that donation, right? If you look at a company like ShopRite, which we've talked about, on this platform over the last year, they come here, they don't treat workers necessarily very well, as publicly available in court documents in the newspaper, etc. So we're asking the workers to give up 2%, but we aren't necessarily asking ShopRite for a contribution. To me, that doesn't necessarily make much sense.
Yeah, okay. And Namibia has already opened a special bank account where citizens can voluntarily deposit this money. What's your take on this? Was this the right thing to do?
Well, I mean, one of the issues around this would that would give comfort to people who maybe wanted to donate would be to have kind of complete transparency. So if there was, for example, there's this bank account and there's also this website that's going to detail, right, every penny that goes in there, exactly how it's going to be spent, because I think it's a really tough ask to in tight economic times to ask people for a contribution from their salary and then not necessarily show them how it's going to be spent.
Not be able to track it in terms of accounting for the funds deposited.
That's I think,
but
something
one would
that
argue
would give
that it's a public account and it will always be under the Auditor General's scrutiny.
Sure. But you're not always asking for people to donate from their salary. I think I would take an extra step in terms of the transparency there and give people, who might be sitting on the fence, that kind of comfort that you know exactly where your money's going to go. And I think that might make people who are uneasy with this maybe feel a little bit safer about it.
Now, according to the presidency, this will be seen as a demonstration of people's personal commitment to the country, that patriotism, sense of pride as being a Namibian to help your government cope in the drought situation. Would you agree with these sentiments, or are you part of those who think this is a coercing statement?
I think it's a little bit manipulative, to be honest with you, to kind of tap into that, and to say, if you don't, then maybe you're somehow suspect, and maybe you don't love your country. I think that's probably a bit unfair. I think there are lots of genuine reasons people would object to making that donation. Yeah. And a lot of those reasons, to be fair and honest, have to do with the government's own performance. So, regarding financial issues. So I think that's a bit unfair.
Okay. And the fact remains that the country is going through tough economic times. Was this because of our own doing, or could this be apportioned to lack of rainfall, for example, the drought that we're experiencing?
There's any number of factors. I think what we can look at is how our government taking care of the least fortunate during this situation, and are they doing everything that they can for people who aren't doing well in this economy, right? I think that's really the measure of whether we're doing well in a recession is what's our reaction to it, and are we taking the extra steps to meet the citizens' needs?
Yeah, and while we have Namibians, they're very divided. There's those who are in solidarity and those who are saying 2% is already too much of their salary, which is not, a decent salary. For example, they are saying their black tax have increased because now they've got family members that are retrenched, they depend on them. They've got students in universities that are not getting loans. The squabbles between NASFAF and the Students Association that is ongoing, and they need to save those 2% and contribute to the education of their children. What would you say on this?
I think that's also a fair sentiment. I think if you again, I would go back to who are we asking for this contribution from? There was recently a story in one of the daily newspapers, mine's on tax honeymoon,
Yeah.
right? And it talked about how upwards of 85 billion. Revenue was generated, and then around 1 billion paid in taxes, and a lot of that came from a single company, which was NAMDEB. So I would not want to see this burden placed on parents who are struggling to put their kids through school, and I might wonder how much water do those companies use, right? After the story came out in the paper, they bought a full-page ad, and they were sad it wasn't framed in a way that was pleasing to them. But why don't they demonstrate their commitment by saying, we make a lot of money in this country. Foreign companies, Canadians, Australians, we'd like to step up here and in a meaningful way contribute to the drought situation, right? We don't feel that it's fair that this burden is placed on mine employees and not on the mines themselves. If they were to step up in a meaningful way, that would be something nice to see. I don't feel
I see your shift from individuals contributing the 2% to companies should be able to contribute.
Absolutely, right. Those who are doing well in this economy should be the ones to step up. Those who do well at the end of the year and take a lot of money offshore, those should be the ones who step up and they do business in this country, right? They drive on the roads, they use the water, they use the electricity, they pay very little in taxes. Time to step up.
Yeah,
right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Question to you, Rob Parker, will you be paying your 2%?
I don't think as currently constituted. I have too many kind of issues with the way this is set up. I'm not opposed to making a donation to drought relief. I think that's a shame because I think this is government's role to facilitate money going to drought relief. I just think this is the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right.
So you will not be doing it because of the way it's constituted at the moment?
Not through this current setup.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And isn't it our responsibility as citizens to help a government out of this tricky situation?
It's our responsibility as citizens to hold the government accountable, right? And not necessarily to bail them out when they get in trouble. It depends on the circumstances of how you got in trouble. Did you go into debt, doing a basic income grant for your citizens, or did you go into debt doing projects that don't really benefit people much at the end of the day, but end up working in the favor of those who are connected and et cetera. So it depends, it depends on how the government is acting. It should guide you on how you act also towards the government. It's a two-way back and forth, and the context matters.
Okay. And since government is not imposing this as a mandatory but voluntary, the 2% from anyone's salary, do you think would have enough turnout of patriotic Namibians that will heed the call?
I think there definitely will be some, but I don't think this should be the plan. I think there must be measures taken that secure that money from somewhere else, from somewhere else in the budget. I don't think you can turn to drought victims, who are going through really hard times and say, oh, well,
Yeah.
not everybody came to the table and therefore we can't really help you. I don't think that's acceptable.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rob. I'm sure we have so much to talk about, but it's now time for us to cross over to the news. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Great. There you have it. I was in conversation with consumer lobbyist, that is Rob Parker, talking to us about the introduction of the voluntary 2% contribution to government coffers so as to help government in navigating through the drought situation.